With final cuts less than 1 week away, let's dive in and give you my latest projections on the 53-man roster. What is going on, Panthers Nation? Carolina Dad here, your host of the two Growls One Roar podcast. Folks, if you're here, please hit the subscribe button, follow, notification bell, whatever it is. Please do that and support the show. I appreciate y'all. We are here, folks. It's happening. Less than a week away from final cuts, which is a stressful week for the coaches, the players, the families as they sit and wait. Are they going to make the roster? Are they going to make the practice squad? Are they going to have to move? Are their NFL dreams over? So many unknowns for a lot of guys. Thousands, not thousands, roughly 1,100 guys. I guess technically it'd be thousands, depending on who is, actually at large to possibly be cut and waived off the team. But we're here today to give you my latest projections on the 53-man roster. So without further ado, let's jump in. So if you saw the first episode, there's honestly not going to be that much of a change in this prediction versus the next, but I will call out a few things as we go through the list here. Let's start with the easiest position on the roster, and that is quarterbacks with Bryce Young and Andy Dalton. Now we know Jack Plummer likely going to get a lot of playing time again this week. Hard to know if Bryce Young is even going to see the field at all. But maybe you see Andy Dalton. It's weird to think that you would see only carry one quarterback and not have Bryce out there at all. But we know Buffalo is resting their starters, so that could play into Canales' decision. But from the roster, 53-man roster projection standpoint, nothing is changing here. Same thing with running backs. Unfortunately, Dylan Johnson, who scored the lone touchdown of the Panthers preseason, the first touchdown since Christmas Eve, he's no longer with the team. So you still have Chuba Hubbard, Miles Sanders, Raheem Blackshear, and Mike Boone. Now, we've seen a ton of Mike Boone, and I don't know if that's like fighting for a roster spot, but I do think you see those four backs. And my guess is Jonathan Brooks goes on the PUP list heading into the season and then can be activated after that 4-week time frame. It all aligns with his recovery plan. So not significant change there. Wide receivers. This is the group that continues to shift. We keep getting scares with Deontay Johnson injuries, Xavier Legette injuries. We get ups and downs from Terrace Marshall Jr., Amir Smith-Marset, David Moore, Jonathan Mingo. For me, the top four are your locks in Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, Jonathan Mingo, Xavier. On the bottom, with Terrace Marshall Jr., Amir Smith-Marset, and David Moore, I think out of this group, you're probably going to get two. I just can't tell you who those two are going to be because we've seen positives from Terrace Marshall. I feel like his stock is up. I feel like Amir Smith-Marset brings a ton of value. We saw deep balls in practice today. He's also available in the return game. But then you also have David Moore, who has ties to Canales and has been there in Seattle and Tampa. Also valuable as a returner. And really the catch-all as we go through this list, I think the thing that may change more than anything is when we get through waivers, there could be another receiver on the market that we pick up once everyone goes down with their cuts, and that number 6 spot might not even be on the team. So, yeah, it's a pretty stressful set of few days for all these guys on the team, at least on the bottom half here of the wide receiver room. For those that are Coker fans, I think he's a practice squad. Same thing with Sam Pinckney. Tight ends, this is another group that's not changing for me. Tommy Tremble, Jatavian Sanders, Ian Thomas, and Jordan Matthews. I think those are your four. We did see Felipe Franks a little bit, Hollister, those guys, but I think these are your four. Another position group that really hasn't changed, and maybe we do keep our eyes open on the active market, again, seeing who gets waived once we get there. On the offensive line, closing out the offense, I still have us keeping 9. And I think similar to wide receivers, I think the last one or two guys on this roster may not even be on the roster today. So I think your starters are set in Austin Corbett, Damian Lewis, Robert Hunt, Iggy Ekwonu, Taylor Moton, Brady Christensen, Chandler Zavala, who luckily sounds like he got away from a pretty big scare with an injury. Jack Anderson, I throw a question mark up. I mean, this dude just got here but had a fantastic game. And Cade Mays. So those are my 9 making the roster right now. With Yash, Nijman, who knows what's going to happen if he goes on IR. I don't know how significant the injury is. But for me, I think the bottom half, again, of who is here may significantly change once we have some additional players that are available. Let's take a look at the defense. On the defensive side of the ball for defensive ends, this is another group that really didn't change. But I guess I could throw a caveat out here with Jaden Crumedy, just understanding the severity of like his recovery and timeline. You do have Derek Brown, Ashawn Robinson, TJ Smith, and LeBrian Ray as my 4. And hard to know the status of what Jaden Crumedy is going to look like heading into the year. Defensive tackle, another easy group with 2, and that is Shai Tuttle and Nick Thurman. Not too much to talk about there out of those 2 guys. Although as we talk about the defensive front and the defensive line, some of those newly acquired guys really did step up in this last game. I don't think they're going to end up making the team, but we did see a decent amount of production, which was nice. I did this again, man. This is what I get. I did not edit this. This is not running backs for the second time that I've done this. Linebackers. I think your 4 here are Shaq Thompson, Josie Jewell, Trevin Wallace, who has come alive, and Claudin Chairless. Now, that 4th spot, is it going to be Michael Barrett? I think Chairless has the upper hand right now. I think this is, again, it's a numbers game. How many do we want to keep at each of these positions? And so is Barrett potentially going to make the practice squad as we start the year? To be determined. Outside linebacker, another group. So this is one, again, when we talk about who's going to be available, that I look at this list and I say, okay, we may scoop someone up. Again, it's a pretty similar state. But right now, Jadeveon Clowney, DJ Johnson, E. Coolioto, who, again, stock has gone up. Clavon Chasen, who we haven't heard much of, is what I have in the 4th spot. I have Barno and Wonum possibly going on IR to start the year. Again, they could be designated to return, but I have those 2. Derek McLendon is someone that has really stepped up as well. I just don't know if he's going to end up making the cut there. Now, at the cornerback position, a group that honestly at one point felt like, hey, this team's gonna be fine, or this position group and the cornerback position on here, like the Panthers are gonna be okay. They've established a lot of good depth, and then injuries happen. Injuries can train wreck anything, and that seems to be the case for the Carolina Panthers. And so you look at this, and honestly, as I create this right now, we've got the latest news that Lamar Jackson was waived. Now, I will say, let me go out here because I found a tweet from Mike K, and I want to ensure that I've got this correctly because I believe that they were still able. Yes. So Lamar Jackson and Tavion Robinson passed through waivers unclaimed. They were with injury designations, so they're going to revert to Carolina's injured reserve list. So positive news there. So I do think I can still keep this intact. So the real question is going to be who's that second cornerback for this team. So the Panthers signed like 3 cornerbacks yesterday: Chris Wilcox, Quandre Mosley, and brought back Willie Drew. Busy time, man. So for me, though, I do think J.C. Horn, DiCaprio Boodle, I don't know with Deshaun Jameson. And now, of course, we know that Stephon Gilmore is headed over to Minnesota. Lamar Jackson and Dane Jackson possibly, which will, Lamar's reverted to IR, but Dane Jackson potentially going on IR as well. It's going to be some tough sledding here. Your nickel cornerbacks have Troy Hill, Chow Smith-Wade. Chow's really stepped up playing on the inside from, traditionally being on the outside. I still have both of these guys on the team. Where you're going to notice a change, you're probably saying, well, what about Jamie Robinson? Because he has played fantastic. I've slotted him in over here at the safety position group. So I know he's played at safety. He's played at nickel. He's kind of bouncing around. I do think he's earned a spot on this team. With the injury to Xavier Woods and Sam Franklin, I think it's opened the door for him, at least in the short term. So Jordan Fuller and Nick Scott, possibly your two starters, with Alex Cook and Jamie Robinson being your backups, and Jamie Robinson potentially, getting into a rotation. That's it, folks. That is your latest and greatest, hopefully greatest version of the 53-man roster. When I look at this, and you got to just talk about this at large, the Carolina Panthers have had 50-plus transactions since camp opened. By far the most active team on the market today. And that can be attributed to injuries, but it could just be talent deficiencies and why they continue to have to be active and try to find a fit here and a fit there. So it's hard to know how many guys will get picked up off of waivers. Last year they picked up 3. I could see a much bigger number of 5 or 6 or 7. And, the back half of this roster looking completely different than what we imagined or thought it could look like a week from now. But anyways, let me know your projections, your position groups. Who do you think is going to make it? Who's not going to make it? We'll get into practice squad probably at a later date. That's kind of fluid, just like everything else. But as always, this is Carolina Dad. Y'all have a good one.